What up, everybody? Scuff D here, and here we go again. Another Primarch video. I'm breaking the tradition. Typically, as I've said before, I don't do a lot of Primarch deck videos. Don't do them for a lot of reasons, mainly because they're harder for people to get. They're kind of luck driven. But lately, every guild has been doing a lot more of these special offers. This weekend it's Calidus. A couple weeks ago we had Guilliman out there. So they're a lot more able to be got, and people who probably have been playing for a while should have a few of them at least, and maybe you want to know how to play it, maybe you just want to see something, what's going on. Obviously the Ultramarines recently received that patch a few weeks back, and they're doing pretty well. In addition to that, we got this hot to trot Astral Incursion card. The videos I'm going to be showing you, the deck list I'm going to show you, is before I do an Astral Incursion Ultramarines, because I think typically the Ultramarine decks that you have been seeing will be kind of cookie cutter paste, very similar Ultramarine decks, and then you throw Astral Incursion in place of like an Asteroid Sanctuary, and there you go, you got the same deck that you had before. This deck that I've been playing with Guilliman's a little bit different. I've had fun with it. I've had some pretty good success with it. It runs the same end game plan, but the earlier game gives you a few more options, I think, anyways. So, looking at Guilliman himself, what he does, obviously, he's got pay 2, deal 2. Damage to enemy troop. If there's none in play, create a practical in your hand. Now, obviously, if your opponent has a troop with ward, duplicitous, or stealth, you can't use this ability at all. So it is kind of important to try to use this earlier in the game if you can, to stock up some practicals at the very least. And if you can use it to kill a troop, that's even better. This game here, I think, I want to say probably about 20 of these games, give or take, is probably following the patch. I was playing them decently before the patch. I don't think I've got, I think most of these Gauge games, and Ventanas, all these were prior to patch. I have not played Ventanas yet since the patch. So I've played the Ultramarines a little bit, probably about 20-ish games, 20, 30 games each prior. I played about 15 Gauge games after the patch. I enjoy Gauge a lot, but I already did a Gauge video and I haven't done a Guilliman video, so that's what we're doing. So let's take a look at a game, take a look at the deck, break it down, kind of explain why I've got some cards in there, and then we'll look at a couple other stuff, talk about the weak spots. Okay, so here we're going to be facing off against a Kendril deck. Kendril's very, very nice. Yeah, don't want this stuff really on. Keep the logos in there. That's looking good. Sisters of Silence are not bad. Kaiserin, I think, is the one you see a little bit more of here, but I really like Kendall. I did a video on Kendall. Check it out. I think she's still viable in her own right, but you have to build your deck a certain way. So anytime you get that Logos and play it first turn, it's better than using his ability. Getting my standard for 5, I would say that's probably him, or Theon for 3 is probably one of your best pulls that you can get. Apothecary Theon is just nuts. But getting these right here, I like that. Heal for 4, or sneak attack to a troop. That's good. So typically your early game with the Ultramarines, you don't have maybe too many of these troops. I like to include just a couple of troops to put the pressure on in the early game against my opponent. I want them to, not think that they can just run rampant here. Take some damage, but we won't have to take too much. 5 energy is kind of once the Ultramarines can really come online, and they really get better later down the road. 7, 8, 9 energy, especially with Ultra Mantle Ultramar, which, lo and behold, this is going to make the game, at this point, every turn will become a harder turn than it was before. So that's a great card to play at 5e if you can get it. That just happened to be a top luck draw there. But we've got options. We're needing some damage. But the thing with the Ultramarines, especially with Guilliman creating those practicals, is he's got ample healing. between the practicals, between troops, between even the crag, which is typically your closer. It doesn't have to be, you know. I opt to go for the stronger front line versus the damage here, because I didn't have enough to really combo with anything else. So having a 7/7 front line, even running the risk of the sisters cards, White Asps or the wolves that gain sneak attack, plenty of them are worth it in keeping it this way. Yeah, lots of damage options here. I've got damage with Guilliman's ability. Get into that overdraw portion though, so I do want to start playing some things. So I wouldn't have played him last turn, but I'm playing this turn because I do not want to get a bloated hand here. I gotta play cards. So if you are finding this video interesting, hopefully not, you know, as we get into the deck list, we start talking about that. Make sure you let people know. Spread the word if you can. I'd appreciate it. You know, the more people learn about the channel, the better. Hopefully you like it. Hopefully you subscribe if you haven't already done so. So we're going to make use of the healing. Now, Kendall, she's got healing too with her Greater Destiny. Once she starts getting that online. So, you know, if I'm able to put the pressure on, but at the same time still keep myself in a safe range, keep some troop out so that his the Euphemia King isn't a problem, I think we're going to do okay. And then she's got this battle armor heal 2, so she can eat 5 but heal 2 if she wants, which now she's going to heal 4. It's a smart play. I can't blame her for that. So we're going to have to throw down some larger bodies that she's not going to be as keen to go face on. We've got some more damage here. That right there is going to give me the trigger for Lysander. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? Free damage here. It's going to lower her attack on the next turn. This can't do anything. Yeah. And then the next turn I can follow that up with a 7 attack, and then he can become an 8. Well, she can lock me at can attack. That's great. I still have courage here. That's why I didn't kill this, because if she put anything down there, it was going to give me courage. She'd have to play another troop. So that's where we're at here. So even though she's increasing her health, I still have courage. And I've got a lot of options. So we go with this one first. I think we play Lectoro. Oh, we go with the 5 damage instead. And that's going to make this guy a 4/4. Yeah. Yeah, the Mantle of Ultramarine is probably one of the best cards to come out of the recent patch. However, Apothecary Theon, which we haven't yet seen this game, can win games just by his mere presence on the board, so that's worth noting. We got the sneak attack here, that's fine. She's down 4 cards. I haven't even played the big guns. I have not yet begun to fight. I have to do Logos and then Stellic. Stellic and then Logos? Or Stellic and Ability is fine too, because I want to get some more healing. Get some more of these adaptable tactics, Know No Fear. That'll be very good. But the Ultramarines go the long game. Absolutely. They go the long game. Make no mistake about that. So you want to make sure that you've got stuff in there to get to the long game. Now, the problem with that, that's a great play. Can't fault him for it, but I've got other things coming on board. I've got that out. If you can get the healing out there, or you can put some troops out mid-game to force your opponent to deal with them, especially, like I said, if they're getting boosted by Mantle of Ultramar, that's really going to give you the time that you need to get to the late game. The reason why the Ultramarines are so powerful is the late game options are very strong. However, if you can't get to that late game because your opponent is bursting you for these attacks, which are savage, when king goes back on the deck, there's a 1 in 8 chance that she's going to draw a king on her next turn. I've got healing here, but is it enough? It has to be, right? It's got to be enough. I've got to put some bodies down the board. If I put down this 3, she can attack it and heal for 4, so I'm not doing that. But I am going to. I know I've got troops down there. I'm gonna have to. So I gotta buy something so she puts the 6 down. She can't just straight attack. So she uses her ability this turn. That's gonna give me the time that I need to do additional damage. 3 plus 7 plus attacking for 2. Oh, well, I guess it'll just be 7 attacking for 2, right? Very strong game. Again, a lot of toolboxes for the Sisters of Silence. Or, yeah, Sisters of Silence. They got a lot of toolboxes out there. Make no mistake about it. But the Ultramarines also have got a bevy of boxes to keep themselves looking good. Staying alive. Healing. Like, I don't know how much I've healed here. I've lost count. I believe I've healed at least 16 in this game alone. She's got a good heal there. Very nice. Between this and my ability, I haven't hit Reckoning yet. Reckoning, the one thing with Guilliman's Reckoning I found, I mean, it's -1 every time a friendly troop dies during the enemy turn, and that's possible because your opponent doesn't want your stuff to stay alive. But typically by the time you get to use it, your deck is very low, so his end game doesn't get he doesn't have too many options. He has some, but he doesn't have too many. And she's just top decking now at this point. I'm fairly certain. She's just got 4 cards left. She knows that if she can pull king, play king, and then draw, and then play king a second time, she'll be looking good. She's got the health. I mean, she definitely has the health advantage. And this is where I really don't have much of a choice. If I'm going to do it, you know, it's going to have to be next turn. The Apothecary will give me 2 health and will buy me some time, give another unit. She's just got 1 card left in her hand, and that really kind of throws off the ability for her to play king, because king is in a fast or a flank if there's a troop out. So at this point, she's run out of tools. I'm getting low in tools, but I still have a lot in my hand because the Ultramarines, they endure. That's what they do. And I made some changes to this deck since this game. I think Casa's squad is out. That's one of the changes that I've made out there. But yeah, at this point, Apothecary can afford to attack because he's going to heal both himself and Guilliman. And that's something that you can expect to see changed eventually. I don't think we're going to get there just yet, but Apothecary Theon is very strong. And I think too strong is probably a good way to say it. And she's drawn up. She's out of her tools. This is all she's got. So all I have to do is have more tools than she. That'll work. That'll do the dirty work there. There's no way that she's got, with those 2 cards, she's got a Greater Destiny in hand, which she can use to continue cycle and heal and increase her attack. That'll buy some turn. She's got Euphemia King, which isn't going to do anything until, you know, I don't have anything on the board. And at the rate I'm going, I'm never going to run out of stuff on the board. I can create stuff in my hand. I don't have to go into Reckoning. But this is a testament of both the Ultramarines as well as the
trail is cold. We must go
Kendall decks. I think they can see the writings on the wall and reason. That's a long game. That's a long game. The Ultramarines go the long game, Guilliman especially. Let's take a look at the deck here. So, as I said, I made a couple changes. I have 1 Casa squad in here still. I think I want to take Casa squad out, though, for something else. There's all the Ultramarine gold. Stellic is kind of necessary. McCraig's Honor is necessary. Orntal's Barge is one we didn't see in there. I don't know if I had multiple success with it. It's not bad. It's very good for buying your time in the early game. Or the late game, I should say, if you're facing like a swarm deck and you want some bodies out there, then these will also feed into the Reckoning. Jubak, obviously, Captain Arceus, and that's Mantle is really the pinnacle of legendaries in this deck here. Logos Lectura. I've got one Retribution Strike in here just because a 2 to draw, is not bad. Yes, Guilliman can create these, but I really like this card. I've always kind of liked this card, like the art. So you could tweak that. You could probably change that. And again, I've got Baleria Squad. I've also got Censored Squad here, which is not something that we saw in the last game. You'll see these in a couple of the replays. These two cards, along with the Jubok, really help put that early game pressure out there. Your opponent has got to deal with these because otherwise they're going to get beefed or they're going to give you damage. Especially if you play them and then the next turn you're able to play Mantle of Ultramar, you've got Mantle of Ultramar out, or you play No Fear. Otherwise, Apothecary Theon does a lot of work for you on his own. Scipio Bikes are in here just for matchups against Defenders of Caliban or similar Swarm type decks. The deck plays pretty consistently, and with the Ultramarine changes, they're able to take from behind pretty quick. So this one here, let's play against Big Brother Dorn, or Little Brother Dorn. I'm not quite sure who's the older here. But Censored Squad, coming in at 3, Dorn likes to have a board. If you've got a troop that has got a battle honor that can kill most of his 2 health turrets, gonna get some extra value out of that, then I'm gonna feel good about it. So far, this is a really good early game hand. We've got Alcaeus to follow up with if we need to. If he plays Kestros, we can play No Fear. No Fear isn't great. It really isn't. Yeah, I think we're just gonna bounce that with Melgator, and then create a practical in hand would be a smart play. Yep. He's put investments into that card that he can no longer get back. And then we're going to keep these guys here. We're not going to attack with them if we can't help it. Stalwart, that's a fair play. That's a fair play. And then do I throw down Apothecary? Yeah. And then you can afford to attack with 2 troops. Just 2. Don't overdo it. We want the healing to go to who we want it to go to. Tactics if we choose to go that way. We've got a lot of damage here. We've got a lot of troops on board. Even though he's got 5 Bastion, which is very strong, that's really not enough to scare us off, right? Especially if we're going to attack with 2 troops. We're then going to heal for 2. And I get a practical. He dumped a lot of time into that play. At 6 energy for Dorn, this is not a good position to be in. The board early on is here. Now you might say, this is Dorn, this isn't Diaz. True, but at Diaz, I can kill turrets with Guilliman, and then I still would have this guy down on the board to kill turrets. So that the opening game wouldn't be much different, except for maybe using Guilliman to face strike once or twice. And then good use for opening salvo, why not? Let's wipe some stuff off. Not sure if we're going to get the healing that we want to get. So try to eliminate what we have to face strike here. Give myself some options. And with this being a 0 cost ability now, that's actually pretty effective. So decide to boost him. So he should heal. If he doesn't heal himself and he heals the Melgator, I'll be sad. He doesn't heal himself, the Melgator. But now Dorn has no choice but to attack him. And he still would have to deal with all of these guys here, who can be buffed with Logos Lectoro, or are just going to be useful to attack things. 2 Stalwart Defenders, though, is nothing to shirk at, so let's get some action going. And at 8 energy, really at 7 to 8 energy is when you should start dropping the large stuff. With this deck or without this deck, as Guilliman or as any other Ultramarine, you're going to want to throw down this stuff. That's not the best roll with an Underclass Barge, but with 2 Stalwart Defenders, it certainly is dangerous. But I do have courage. He's given me courage. So if I've got it, I'm going to use it. And then just like that, like the barge does nothing. Could put down another body here, but this is not a courage effect at all, and this would be much more effective with courage in the current state, so we'll take what we can get. Ah, there comes the mantle, but we don't need it. What we need is to destroy things at this point, so that's what we'll do. Sure, he's looking for a retribution. Defender of Terra, very nice play. Again, we're going wide here. And he's got two. He's got two stalwart defenders, but we've got this activated ability, which is nice for 6 damage. We can make that work. But I'm going to make that work. Keep my guys alive as much as I possibly can. Give myself some more options. So even next turn, if he doesn't get rid of this guy here, got 6. Or if he does get rid of that guy, then we've got a good 9 damage, right? Got my Crag's Honor to throw out there. Should be able to wrap this up, although I cannot fault those a stalwart door game done very well. Got it right here. The 6 plus the 7. So even with the 2 stalwart defenders, Terra, all the frontline stuff, still no match. Still no match, thanks to the power of the Ultramarines now. Okay, so one of the weak areas I found in the deck here, we're going to play against Corswain in this one, is decks that are mono warlords. Definitely, they don't put you at a terrible disadvantage, but they take away one of the swings that your decks can have. You're facing an Angron, even like a Jagathai Khan, or a well-tuned captured Dragorax. Anything that's just got a one warlord focus build, or even like a Mortarion, which is like later game stuff. Although I don't know, Astral Incursion Mortarion's not quite the same, so don't hold that to it. But those decks, they deny you the courage, so which is not terrible, but courage is really what makes them. Courage is really what adds the extra power to these guys. So them not having courage, this would just be a 5/5. You know, that's not as effective as a 6/6. That could become a 7/7 on this turn that you played in with that Mantle Ultramar. It eliminates the use of Scipio altogether. Ancient Marcellus goes from dealing 6 to just dealing 3 for 9 as a rally effect. So exponentially gets very small very quickly. That's not great, but then if you couple that with the fact that those decks typically really burst out and just do damage, and the early game here, I mean, if I would not have had that well-tuned logos on the Honor Guard here, I wouldn't have really a board, and that would leave me susceptible to whatever Corswain is running, or an Angron is running, and he's throwing mortar strikes and speeders. And while there's a lot of healing there for the Ultramarines, there's not enough to make up for it in that early game. Within 5 or 6 turns, your game is over, or your health pool is too low that you're not only losing the advantage that you have to come from behind and attack, but you're also losing the advantage of attacking. Like, you can't attack, you're just lucking on tactics, and if you don't have healing, or you do have healing, that's all you're spending your energy on. So, those matchups are definitely a hard matchup against Ultramarines, against Guilliman especially. Another hard matchup I would probably say definitely is the ramp decks. Ramp decks, especially with Astral Incursion. And like I said, I'm going to put Astral Incursion in the Ultramarine deck. It's not going to change this deck up. It will have to be rebuilt. Your typical Guilliman deck doesn't have as many 3 or 4 cost troops. So it'll still play fine. But an Astral Incursion Saul plays completely differently. That's not an opponent that you want to throw down against. If you're facing Astral Incursion Saul and turn 3, you're just getting to play, maybe the Baleria squad, and turn 3 they're dropping down a Titan. That does you no good. That's not what you want to see. Yeah, so here, we'll lose Mysander, but we're still throwing down enough heat down there at this point. We've got damage. Got all the damage we're going to need. It's game. Game, set, match. Good sir. And this is just like almost, I want to say, perfect on curve Ultramarine plays. Versus the Dark Angels, who've got a lot of power beef, but the Ultramarines are sticky, and they need to be sticky. So, yeah. So, I don't mind Guilliman. I enjoy the deck. I do enjoy the deck. This deck, as I said, this is a without the Astral Incursion. If you're focused on an Astral Incursion, you would probably get rid of Malgator. You'd probably get rid of Baleria squad, Jukebox, Scipio Bikes, Captain Alcaeus. You keep Bacchus squad. You toss, and then you throw in a couple, like an Asteroid Sanctuary, maybe a drill site, and then obviously Astral Incursion. And I've seen people run the Invictus Terminators. Those are not bad. They're a higher cost, better option versus the Scipio Bikes. So that is something to consider if you want to run that way, but you're running very heavy at that point. This deck here has got moderate amount of 7+ cost cards, but you swing that away, you take about 4 or 5 of these cards from the 3 cost, and you pump that up, and your deck becomes a very top heavy deck. And again, that heightens your weakness against those certain deck builds. Whereas, like I said, I enjoy having Baleria squad and Sensor squad to put the pressure on earlier against my opponent. That's just me. That's just this particular deck. You don't have to play it this way. If you want to play a bunch of Terminators and Mysander, then go for it. If you want to play Wrath and Betrayal, some recommendations I make. If you want to play Wrath and Betrayal or Reckoning Guilliman, you can play Arcology. Arcology and Wrath and Betrayal still works very well. Whirlwind Scorpius puts some pressure on. This is not a vehicle that your opponent wants to let sit. It's not great. There are better Whirlwinds. The Imperial Fist Whirlwind is probably one of the best ones out there, but it's still decent. It's not something that your opponent wants to let sit. Petronius squad, not bad. Very costly though, so probably worth considering something more like either Stylus Veterans, which has the Courage and Battle Honor, get a random practical, or Kledos Command, which just gives you a theoretical, and then as a Courage you get frontline. They're pricey though. Trajan Squad is one I would recommend you stay away from, or just include one of in your deck. And the reason I say that is because Trajan Squad gains flank. Flank is very useful. Flank is nice for 4 energy. That's great, but it has to have it as a courage, which means at 3 health, he's not likely to survive to get boosted by your Mantle of Ultramar. You're really just throwing out 5 damage at something. And if you were going to throw out 5 damage, use something different that rallies and deals damage, or that boosts and bolsters what you already have on the board to do more damage. Don't just throw out, this is just like throwing out a Seek and Destroy at that point. Like, you might as well just, for 4 energy, you could have 2 Seek and Destroys in your deck. It's just my argument against Trajan Squad. They don't really do anything enough for the Ultramarines specifically. So, those are my recommendations. If you were to include other cards for Guilliman, like a Reckoning. Nurglings is always good for Guilliman's Reckoning, because they go back up into your hand every time they die. You could possibly make an argument for a Silent Death to buy yourself some time if you're looking to do an Astral Incursion build. If you want to do Guilliman Reckoning and Wrath and Betrayal, again, Darius Rhino is not bad. It gives you some zealots to make for some sacrifices. And just other than that, your traditional, Doombringer, Kaiser Lane, those aren't bad cards to have out there. I don't have Crucial Choice in this deck. I made a choice not to have Crucial Choice in this deck, but I think it's one that you could make an argument to put in there. If you find yourself just enjoying it or doing the tactics. Mantle of Ultramar, if you don't have Mantle of Ultramar, consider Lords of Ultramar. At least as a poor man's substitute, it's not bad. It's not great. It doesn't do anything for you turn after turn, but it does do stuff for the cards before you put them out. And that's not bad as a poor man's substitute. And if you really want to go overboard, you could have both Lords of Ultramar and Mantle of Ultramar. But you're really pushing into dangerous territory there. That's a lot of lost momentum. So I've seen people do it, and it's nice when those large troops come out, but that's 2 turns you're giving up to play anything offensive, and you really got to be careful with that, especially with these guys who they can come back, but if the board state is too far back or they don't have the healing, they're not really going to come back and win. So that's it for me, guys. I hope it's been helpful for you. If you find it interesting, let me know if you like the Astral Incursion builds or the higher end builds. Great. If you're playing a low cost Reckoning Guilliman, let me know too. Always kind of curious to hear what people are playing. That is it for me, guys. Until next time, keep playing Legions, and we'll talk to you later.